Hello and welcome to Raise the Bar, the Sky High and Fly Jump Camps podcast. I'm your host, Troy Haines. It is Sunday, January 21st, the day after my beloved 49ers squeaked their way through a home playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. So I'm happy and sad they didn't play that well, but I'll get over it. And today I'm excited because we have as our guest a young man named Dontavious Hill, who is pretty pretty good young American jumper here. He's going to the University of Auburn in the SEC, and he's already jumped some pretty high heights. I think he's jumped at least 7.375, 7.4, which is going to be good enough to get to the Olympic trials this year. It's at least the B standard. I don't know if the A standard is still 7.5 3/4. But he's made some U.S. teams that have traveled and see some great stuff of his. So he's getting ready to check in with us here, and we will talk to him coming up. And
Hey,
there
how
he
you
is.
doing?
All right, the famous Dontavious Hill. Hey,
Yes, sir.
hey, thanks so much for taking the time today, Dontavious. I just did your send up. Thanks for being flexible with the time. I was training a young gal virtually from Alabama shores, so somewhere close to you. She said that she worked at a school that she's pretty sure that you went to, your high school from that area.
Yes,
So,
sir.
so yeah, small world, right? On
Oh,
the
yeah.
we're doing our podcast. So welcome. It's been a couple of years. I think I've been chasing after you, and yeah, we finally found a good time. So why don't you do me a favor, Dontavious, and tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, how you got into high jumping, what sports you did in high school other than track and field, if you did any of those, um, and then maybe a little bit of what you've been doing so far at Auburn.
Yes, sir. So I got into high jumping around ninth grade, but I started running track and field in seventh grade. So I struggled athletically growing up, and track was the first sport I was able to actually make a team for when I was in middle
Uh,
school. So moving forward, ninth grade, my older brother was already on the track team for high school, which was Baker High School in Mobile, Alabama.
mhm.
And he was doing a high jump, and I was just kind of following in his footsteps. At the time, I was about 5 feet, 5 feet 5 inches tall,
Right.
and I wasn't very good. So I jumped about 4.8 my first year doing the high jump. But over the years, I just progressed. I got better each and every year.
Mhm.
5'10" sophomore, 6'3" junior, then 7 feet as a senior, which ended up allowing me to get to Auburn and had a great career at Auburn. I was a five-time NCAA All-American, four-time SEC medalist, and I was able to make three USA teams while I was at Auburn. And I just recently graduated, and I'm now a pro. So a
Awesome.
little bit about my journey.
Yeah, I sold you short on that. I thought you were still going there, and then I couldn't. You're so I want to say you don't blow your own horn a lot on on your feed. So I'm a lot of times I'm guessing as to what's going on. I love watching your jump progressions. Starting at 6'8", that one meet that you had, and there's like 6'8" and 6'10", and so I'm like, man, this guy's taking a lot of jumps. Like bar just kept going up, and you kept getting farther and farther away, which is one of the things I keep teaching to my kids, and like, wow, that's really great. So 5 times, so that's indoor and out, right? 5-time medalist.
NCAA All-American, yes, sir.
And you have to be top 8 to get All American. Is that still the way it goes?
So yes, you have to be top eight to get first team All American, then top 16, second team All American. I was
Really?
first team twice.
Uh-huh.
Those times I was twice, I got third place, so I got two bronze medals.
Nice.
But
Yeah, I
yes,
only
sir.
made it to the dance one time. My senior year, I jumped 222, and I came in ninth. At the time, this is 1986, way before you were born. So at the time, I don't think there was two. If there was, I never heard about it. That there was a second team, because I would imagine I would have been a second team because I just finished one spot out of the first team All American. I remember somebody told me that. I didn't even know that was a thing. So when they told me that, I was like, oh, wow, okay, it was almost All American. But yeah, that's 5 times awesome. And then, so what are the PRs, both indoor and out?
Indoor PR is 7'3", 2.21 meters, and outdoor PR is 224, 7'4" and a quarter.
Four and a quarter. Awesome. And then, so now this is kind of weird too, going pro. I hear that all the time now. Back when I was jumping, you graduated and then you kind of tried to join a team somewhere. And if you were like Carl Lewis or someone like that, then maybe somebody was paying you something. But for the most guys, they were just finding a team that they could train with, right? Because they could no longer go back to their own. I mean, I could go to UCLA and still jump. They wouldn't not let me jump, but I moved away. So that would be travel, right? So um, now that you're a pro, who's paying you? And then how does that work?
So right now I'm independent. So just like how you said, unless you're one of the top guys, you can get those contracts and things like that. But
Hmm.
I'm pretty much independent, training on my own, things like that, and competing on my own.
Okay. So once you jump X, whatever that height is, that's when you pretty much know, right? The offers will come rolling in and somebody will say, we want you to wear what we want you to wear or sell what we want you to sell, right? And then
Yes, sir.
kind of jump on the wheel. Yeah. Awesome. So tell us what's up with this year then. So you're not training for anything indoor outdoor for Auburn, and you've got the Olympic trials are coming up. So what's the plan, dude? I want to hear all the great stuff that's going on.
Oh yeah. So USA Indoors is coming up February 16th through the 17th. The high
Okay.
jump is going to be on the 16th, so that's about a month out, less than a month out. But I plan to participate in that competition. So my goal for the year is really to get my world ranking as high as I can. I'm currently ranked 41 in the world, but the
Mhm.
goal is to be top 36 to get the automatic bid for the Olympic trials as long as I place top three.
Okay.
So really want to use USA indoors to get a good mark down. This is considered early in the season since
Sure.
Olympic trials is the goal.
Yeah.
So I want to get a good mark down indoors at USA in about a month, um, just to get those little ranking points and then progress outdoor season, continue to get stronger and build. And that way I can be ready to peak at Olympic trials in order to give myself the best shot at making a team.
Awesome. So I know there's still an A standard and a B standard too. Is that a way that you can skip all the world points? Like if you just jump 7.5 and three quarters, right? Was it 225 or 226? Is that
So
automatic no matter what else you do?
so they got the standard at 7 and a quarter, 232.
Really?
So yeah,
Seven,
that's
7.25. Good
it
God.
used to be about 226,
Hmm.
I believe for like the before 2020.
Yeah.
But yeah, 7 and a quarter. My end goal is to jump in the 230s and the 232.
Yeah.
That's my end goal as a high jumper, so I can consistently get standards.
Right.
But this year, I'm taking it one step at a time, and what's going to come first is that world ranking. Since
Yeah.
I'm kind of trying to peak toward Olympic trials,
Right.
so that's how I'm thinking about it.
So what would be a good mark for you at this meet that's coming up indoors? What would make you happy?
This is almost an opener. So even before USA Indoors, I plan to jump at Tiger Paw Invited at Clemson unattached, and that's
Mhm.
coming up in 3 weeks, which will be a week before indoors.
Right.
So I want to open up. Um, Honestly, I want to open up above 215 at Clemson. Then at indoors, I want to open up above 220.
Hmm.
So my indoor PR is 221, and I want to continue to progress and build off of that throughout the year.
Right.
But overall, I want to medal at the competition. So if it takes more than that, I might have to jump higher. But I have my own personal goals as well.
Right. So the PR is at 224. So what is that, if you don't mind sharing that with us? What do you have as your, I know this is something for our younger listeners, Dontavious, because I found that it was very useful, and I still find this as a coach. The very first time I work with someone, unless they just started jumping last week, their parents bring them out and say, hey, they went to a meet and they were pretty good, so I brought them to you. But if they've been jumping for a little while, I'll be like, all right, well, what are our goals? What do you want for this year? What do you want? If they're a freshman in high school, like, what do you want to jump? For them, it's probably just that year. As they're getting to be sophomores or juniors, maybe they've been to state, and you start talking, what school are you interested in going to, right? And so bigger and bigger picture. So when you're goal setting, how does that work for you when I know some of them are just made for you, right? You've got these different heights that are kind of, you've got to get to. Like I did that my senior year. I had to jump 222 just to go to NC2As. There was no regionals back then. So it was either 7, 3.5, or you didn't go. So that I
Right.
remember that, so
For me, um, my goal setting idea has kind of changed over the years. Early on, when I was around my freshman year in college, I was like, oh, I want to jump 7'7". Like I wanted a 7-inch PR in 1 year,
yeah,
you know. And as I continued to get older, sophomore year, I started to see this is harder than what I thought it was going to be. It's going to take more work.
right,
And then junior year, I started to progress a little more. I was able to get to 21. But overall, I usually set a mark that I want to jump for the year. As a freshman, I wanted to jump above 7 feet. Ended up jumping 7'1". As a sophomore, I wanted to go 7'2". Didn't quite have the great year. Jumped 6'11". Then COVID hit.
yeah,
Junior year, my goal was 7'3", and I finally hit it. I was so excited, and it took pretty much a full year to get back to that, and I was able to jump 7'3 3/4" my senior year at Auburn. But that
all
was when
that
I had to really,
yeah,
yeah, I had a
awesome,
really great year that year. And then this year, my fifth year, I had bigger goals. I wanted to jump like 230 because I
Mhm.
had jumped 223, 220, 223, 224 for the past year.
Right,
And I felt like I hadn't achieved what I was truly capable of. So I set heights that I want to achieve. It's usually a PR because I PR pretty much every year I've competed.
right,
And I also set goals at championships. I say, okay, I want to get top 8 at SECs. That's
right,
scoring. That was a big goal for me as a freshman. Then it went to, I want to get top 5. And I
yeah,
got better. And I was like, okay, now I want to medal. And I changed my goals as I got progressively better. I
yeah,
wanted to medal, and then I wanted to win. When I
yeah,
saw that I got bronze at NCAA's twice, because when I got my first NCAA's first team All American, I was only shooting for top 8
yeah,
because I had never gotten a trophy because the year before I wasn't able to get the trophy. I got like ninth place, same as
right,
you did. And the year after that, I was able to. I said I want top 8. I got top 3. And then outdoors, I said, okay, I want another trophy. I just want top 8 again. I got top 3 again.
yeah,
So, and I really came very close to winning that championship, but it just didn't work out. And then the next year, I was like, which is this past year, I was like, okay, I want to win now. I was able to get top 3 twice. I have the potential. I can do it,
yeah,
but it just didn't work out that way. But that's how I set my goals. I have medals and championship accolades I
right,
want to achieve, and I also have my own personal heights I want to achieve.
right. How
Oh
how
yeah.
about does that extend into your training now? Like what I mean by that is say, goals as far as strength goals or speed goals or vertical, touch goals or something like that. Do you expand it into that realm as well?
Yeah, so early on when I was younger, around 19, 18, 19, I didn't really think about it that way. I used to just do whatever my coach asked me to do and just try to go out there and perform. But as I got older, like this past year and the year before that, I wanted to get stronger. I wanted to
Mhm.
power clean more. I wanted to squat more. I wanted to have better technique with my plyometrics. I wanted to become more flexible, my hips, my hip flexors, things like that. So yeah, I do expand that into my training. Even this year, I have
Mhm.
goals to get much stronger than I was this past year, just so I can see how it converts to my jumping.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It's I remember doing the same, I kind of a roundabout way, but yeah, it takes a little bit more knowledge, I think. I think that's what you're saying too. Like when you first start, you're just a kid, your coach has the plan, right? And it's in some ways it's liberating. You don't have to think so much as you just show up and do, right? And then as you become more engrossed in your technique and everything, and you're more aware of the little pieces, and some strengths and some weaknesses. Like you said, hey, my hip flexors are tight. I need to get in a better layout position, whatever. That kind of talking about this, I've had for years now, when breaking down the high jump and teaching it, I was teaching my guys, and this is gonna make you laugh because I came from the same side as you. So I'm going up. I was a double armor. My knee drive to get my back to the bar, and I was taught your eyes always either go down the bar or straight back. And I've noticed when you do your layout that your head goes back and a little bit to the left, and then you do that side back over flip. And
Yeah.
the first time I saw it, I'm like, wait, what? Because I have this really bad habit of telling people that I don't think things work or I don't think they're gonna work just because I've done it that way, or I've seen it taught that way, or whatever it is. And like there's some jumpers just recently, yourself, Javon Harrison, very unique layout. One that I jumped against one guy in high school that did something similar. He drove that one knee up and bring the other knee up and then pop both hips, right? Like crazy. So I remember when I saw that again, I was like, man, I haven't seen that in like 30 years. And I see Javon Harrison do that over 7-8. And then the guy from that won the indoor from Oklahoma.
Javon, oh no, it's Vernon,
Yeah, the
pitch
other double
kicker.
leg kick, like the looks like a long jumper, right? He does one leg then
Oh
the other.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I've never seen that one before. And I wouldn't try to teach it, but you're like, okay. And then, like I said, I was taught head straight back or to the side I'm coming from because I don't want to reverse spin. And the more I've looked at what you're doing, the more I'm like, yeah, but that reverse, that pivot around kind of works. So I don't know if you saw it. I'm working with a Paralympian who just got his new prosthetic on this last week, and he showed up and he was excited. He's getting a little extra bounce from it, and he jumps off his regular leg, but stepping into the jump off of this works, and he's got to drive that leg around. So he was driving his leg around, and he was doing the same thing. Now he comes from the other side, but he kept looking to the wrong side. And I was telling him, I go, man, we got to get your eyes down this way. And then the more I was watching you, and the more I was watching him, I'm like, yeah, but he gets good rotation right there. I'm like, okay, I got to give in. I'm like, I got to say, just let's do it a la Dontavious Hill, and you can do that as you're. And I still have some that are doing it, but they don't have the same rotation. So I'm trying to train them, to go one way. But is that something that you decided on, or was that just the way that you kind of did it? That
Honestly, it's a natural thing for me. Like for instance, like when I told you I was jumping 4'8" and 5'10" when I was like 16, 17, and my layout was always kind of different. It was
Mhm.
always what I consider pretty. A lot of people say they like the way I jump. It's like a
Mhm.
nice, they like the way I jump. And it's just been a natural thing ever since the bar was low, ever since I
Right,
couldn't jump high. That's how I did it. So
right.
that's kind of where that came from.
So back to you. Of way more interest to me was you talking about those teams that you've made. I remember I've seen some of your posts, and you're on traveling teams that have gone different places, and I'm so jealous. Where did you get to go, and how did that come about?
So I was able, my freshman year, I'll just give you the storyline. So my freshman year, I was good for a freshman. I was able to score SECs at Auburn,
Mhm.
indoors, outdoors, didn't do so well. Didn't qualify NCAA indoors, and neither did I make it outdoors. But after that, I got to go to USA trials. My coach, Scott Richardson, took me down there. And I didn't even know that you could make under 20 USA teams when I was 19. I was like, it's Olympics and that's it, or Worlds and that's it.
Right.
And I was just so excited. I was like, okay, I get this opportunity. So we went down to Miramar, Florida, and it was about 4 or 5 guys in the competition. And I was one of the only college guys. I think it was two of us. And I ended up clearing 6'11 3/4, got first place. And that's how I made the U20 Pan American Games team, which competed in Santiago. No, not Santiago. It was San Jose, Costa Rica. And that was a great experience, man. That was my first time traveling out of the country. Went to South
Right.
America, and yeah, it was a great competition. I met a lot of guys that I kept in contact with even over these past 5 years,
Yeah.
just from different countries. And I ended up jumping 208 at that competition. I didn't perform at my best, about 16, and I ended up getting fifth place, and I was a little bit disappointed, especially as the team captain. I was the team captain of that team as well. I had
Hmm.
to stand up and give a speech and earn the respect of the team.
Right.
And moving forward, 3 years later, my senior year at Auburn, I I had the really great season I told you about when I jumped, when I was able to get first team All American twice
Hmm.
and the SEC medals. And I ended up making what was it, the NACAC team. I made the NACAC championship team after performing well at USA Outdoors. Once again,
Hmm.
I cleared a height of 7'3 1/4 at
Nice.
that championship, and they moved the bar up to 227 after that. And I was jumping at a PR. But I ended up placing third. I lost to Javon Harrison and Shelby McEwen And I was just so excited. I was happy. I was like, okay, this is cool. I didn't expect to place third.
Yeah.
It's a senior championship, first senior championship, and yeah, I beat a lot of great guys, and I was able to qualify for the NACAC team, which traveled to the Bahamas,
Hmm.
and it was a great experience. I would have been able to make the world team that year, but I didn't have the world ranking or the standard.
Ah,
But so
yeah.
I made the NACAC team, and we traveled to the Bahamas. It was a great experience. They had us staying on a resort. It was a pool and a beach out there every day for like 7 days, and it was just great, man.
Right.
And I ended up placing fourth at that competition. I lost to some really great high jumpers. One of them was an Auburn graduate. He's an older high jumper, Donald Thomas, who's a
Yes.
world champion.
He's Bahamian, isn't he? Isn't he what
Yes, sir.
jumped for the Bahamas in the Olympics, right?
Yes,
Oh,
and he jumped his PR is 237. So he
yeah.
was out there. He placed third. The Canadian guy, dang, I can't remember his name right now, but and then a Cuban guy also got
Hmm.
second, but he tied for first. And then moving forward, I was able to this past year with the year that I had. I was like, oh, I didn't have the greatest year. I didn't feel as good about it because I had just had this other year before that.
Right.
And so this year I placed 12th at NCAA's and 14th at NCAA's. And I did get an SEC medal, silver medal. And I was able to go to USA outdoors once again. And I think I placed sixth place. Yeah, I
Mhm.
placed sixth place. I jumped the same height as the guy who placed third, but I just cleared it with less attempts.
Right.
And then I just waited patiently over a 1 month, 2 month span, and next thing I know, I got an email said I've been selected to go to Pan American Games. So the only way I got the opportunity is because guys ahead of me either deferred or they were in a different part of the competition or their
Right.
season doing different competitions. So I was blessed to get that opportunity once again. Went out to Pan Am's and ended up placing fifth place. And I had a great experience. Almost jumped at a PR once again. I jumped 221 and attempted 24 for the
Right.
bronze medal. But yeah, that was my experience.
Oh man. Yeah, that's awesome. You're throwing some names around there. I heard the Bahamian, I remember seeing him. I was trying to do a breakdown of techniques, and I was, I looked on YouTube and I found the 2016, Olympics, and the first thing they show on the YouTube feed is all the names. So there's like one list of 12 people and then another, and I'm reading through, and there's all these guys I follow on Instagram. I love watching Brandon Stark from Australia. I love watching these different guys, and then of course there's Barshim and Bondarenko and Druin, and I'd already seen that. I knew that they were the top three, but I was looking to see the other guys, and I saw your Bahamian. I saw two guys that made the final from the Bahamas. I was like, well, that's interesting because the U.S. only had one. It was Eric Kennard, and then I think Bondarenko had a teammate. There was four different countries that had two. Nobody had three, and then most countries just had one guy make it to that final. And then when I got to the main part of the feed, they just showed those three. There was no other jumps. I'm like, this is we do such a travesty to you guys. It's terrible coverage. The people at the top, I rant on about this all the time. So if you're listening to this podcast again, I know I sound like I'm getting in my soapbox, but I'm such a huge fan of track and field in general and the high jump in particular that I'd love to see them do a better job of showcasing you guys when you're, jumping at high heights. And I mean, this goes back to 1984. I'm a sophomore at UCLA and I'm watching the finals that year. I jumped 218 that year for the first time. So I jumped two, and I think the trial height used to be 4.25, and as far back as 84. So I was a couple inches below that and took jumps at it, but I didn't, it wasn't even in my goal set. We were talking about goal sets earlier. My goal that year was to jump 7 feet for the first time. I still hadn't jumped 7 feet. So I went 7 feet and then 7.2. And it took somebody else telling me, hey, you're only 2 inches below the Olympic, trial standard. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. And that changed after that. After that, when I was more experienced, that became part of the goal set. But watching those Olympics, Doug Nordquist was on that team who jumped 236. And, Dwight Stones made it at the age of 30, and he jumped 7.8 at that time and broke the American record. And, in the trials. So he was in first, Doug came in second. You know what they showed of them in the Olympics? One jump each. That's all I saw. And that
Wow.
was one by Mogenberg, who jumped 7.8 3/4. Joburg, I think, lost to him on misses, jumped 7.8 3/4. And then the Chinese guy, Jin Chua, who was the world record holder at the time, took third. And I think Stones took fourth and Nordquist took fifth. They showed two jumps. They didn't even show the other guys, I don't think, the guys that won, because they're from another country and it's the USA, feed, right? And I'm just like, this is terrible. And the angles are bad. They're like that top high right side. So I like seeing that, straight down the bar shot where I can see what kind of, slingshot you're getting out of your curve. And it's just terrible. They go, oh yeah, here's this jump earlier, and they just show one jump and they go away. I like, everybody knows a high jump takes 4 seconds. So you're getting four
Yeah.
seconds of air time, right? And that's it. I'm like, where's the drama? Where's the step by step? You don't get any of that. So I would love to see it do a better job and showcase you guys and your talents.
Oh yeah. So my favorite high jumper is Gianmarco Tamberi, the Italian. I
Mm-hmm.
love the emotion that he brings to the sport.
Yeah.
And a little bit more about what you say about the lack of coverage. When I was in Chile, Chile for the Pan American Games, I didn't know how much they were gonna cover the competition.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I was jumping and competing, I was just trying to make it as dramatic as possible.
Right.
I got to clap every time, slow clap
Yeah.
every time I jump, starting even at 205.
Mm-hmm.
I actually missed my first attempt in that competition, but I cleared everything else up to
Right.
my PR. But yeah, what one thing I try to do with my platform is make high jump a fun, exciting, interesting thing, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's not what it was. Well, that's not what it's been portrayed as. It's always been sprints is cool.
Yeah.
Um, even long distance gets their love, but when it comes to field events, we don't get that love or support the same kind of level when it comes to coverage by the media, at least.
Yeah.
And that's one of my goals with my platform, just make high jump fun for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing now is you have a platform. Again so jealous. I'm feel like I'm 30 years out of date, age-wise, but I'm just this whole Instagram and YouTube and all these things where there's this information. I To be honest, Dontavious, if somebody said, what did you do? How did you look when you were high school? I don't even have any video. I don't have anything of me. I have nothing. I have a box of VCR tapes that I'm still trying to find a VCR to play to see if I can find any videos. I think there might be a couple in there, but I'm not sure. And I lost some 8 mm film that they used to take of us when I was jumping at UCLA, but it was like, I can find anything. I can find you guys and I can break it down frame by frame. Somebody taught me how to screen record. I was blown away by that. I was like, I'm always watching stuff on Instagram, this and that, and I'm like, I can't watch it. And they go, here, screen record. They go, swipe down, go like this. I'm like, what? And I'm like, you mean I can watch all this stuff? So now I've got these great angles and everything. I can break it down. And my brain is like, I want to put force plates underneath, where you guys take off from. I want to have that camera that goes straight at you on both sides, obviously. I like to have a camera straight at the bar, which I'm not crazy about that shot most of the time, but I do like it to see what your lean back angle is like. And then I want to have a over the top one so I can watch how good you are running the curve, like the shape of the curve, at least from
Yeah,
straight overhead. You either have a drone, which would be fun, right? Get everybody jazzed up and go, here's the drone shot of Dontavious as he's jumping at 7.7 3/4, whatever. Notice this. And then yeah, I want all that stuff. What was the other there was I think the force plates were it. That'd be the peak. But so man, yeah, my brain is always going. I love anything that I can do to promote you. You're gonna be able to promote you better than I am. If anybody looks at what I'm doing here on Instagram and be like, oh, it probably took you 5 minutes to get 50,000 or whatever you're at. I've taken 7 years now of training, and I remember my wife at the time, I showed one of my kids who jumped 6'10" at our state meet, or 6'9", and I go, Jack got third with 6'9", and I put this jump on Instagram and it's got like 100 likes, and my wife goes, well, how many followers do you have? And I'm like, well, I don't know, like 20. And she's like, well, you don't have any followers, you got to start putting hashtags in your stuff. And that was 2019. So it's been 5 years, from 100 followers to this. And if there's any platform I have, it's not, obviously I can't show anything that I've done. And I always label myself the old man if I'm demonstrating anything for anybody with the bar very, very low. Which is funny with raise the bar as my moniker. But so the big goals are you getting to the trials and making the team. And then how does that look this year? What do you think? Who are your main competitors? Javon's already been there. I would expect he's probably going to try to get back in the long and the high. And then who else do you think is a front runner along with yourself?
The top guys have been Javon and Shelby McEwen, who graduated from Alabama. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure you've probably seen that name before. He's
Yes.
a 7'7 3/4" guy.
Hmm.
But you also have a lot of good guys who just graduated recently with me, like the Vernon Turner,
Yeah.
7'7" guy. Even Daryl Sullivan, who jumped 7'7" also back when he was in college.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of guys. Even some of the older guys may come back out just to compete, And
Yeah.
even some of the guys who are good in NCAA right now, you got the Trey Allen 7'5",
Hmm.
um, 7'5" guys. And it's people coming out of nowhere, man. People get better every year.
I know, right?
It's just crazy. So there's going to be a lot of good competition, but those are the top guys I would say that I've been looking at that I know are going to compete well because I've competed against them
Right.
all these years.
What about Seals he was from SC a couple years back. He jumped 7
USC.
at Mount Sac when I was there.
Oh, Ernie. Ernie, I'm not sure, but I love Ernie's technique. He's a great jumper. He's very talented. His best is 230, I
Hmm.
believe, or 231. So I'm pretty sure he'll be out there. It's Olympic year, so
There was that.
yeah.
I was at Mount Sac. It was 2 years ago, and he jumped 7.6, and then the kid had graduated already from Texas Tech, jumped 7.5 and a half. Really scrapes his foot. I can't remember his
Trey
name.
Culver.
It was Trey
It's
Kohler.
Trey
Okay,
Culver.
a big foot scrape. That was one of those ones I was saying to people for years. I don't think anybody's gonna be able to scrape their foot and jump any higher than 7.4. So he jumped 7.5 while I'm watching him at Mount Sac. So I had to eat that one. And then less than a year later, Fabian Delrid. I don't know if you've seen that guy. He's Swedish. I put him on one of my feed. I don't know how I found him. He just came across my feed, and I see this, and he looks like he's pretty tall. And I'm thinking that doesn't really look that high. It turns out he's 6'9", and he was jumping 7.7 1/4, and you can see the dust scrape on his foot, as he's going up. And I'm like, dang, dude, 7.7 1/4, and he's scraping his foot. I'm like, I'm gonna have to change my mind about that. Because he started as a single armor with really high cycling, so he just cycled right off the ground, no foot drag, and
Yeah.
then he switched to a double. And he was jumping pretty high as a single armor when he was a kid. He sent me videos of him at 14 and 15, jumping pretty high heights. And then he switched to a double and was scraping his foot, jumping 7.7. So that's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
amazing. Do you ever
Uh,
jump against the jump man? Eric, uh, is it Jordan Westner?
yes, I've jumped against him in the past.
The jump man.
Uh, I think I've jumped against him at NCAA's before, actually.
Yeah. He just graduated a
Um,
couple of years back. He went to the trials in 2021 at like five
hmm
quarters. Yeah.
He jumps in a hat. He likes to wear a hat when he jumps,
Wow.
like a
Yeah.
hat.
Yeah. And he's a big dude, right?
Um,
Like 210.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a bigger guy. Got bounced though,
Yeah.
and I think he transferred to Florida State
Yes. Yeah.
at
He
one
did.
point.
He was in the middle of the country and he went to Florida State for his senior year. Yeah.
Yep. So I jumped against him. He's a cool guy. I like jumping with him. I
Mhm.
haven't seen him do any high jump competitions lately though.
He's just dunking from
Um,
past the free throw line. Have you seen that stuff?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
like
seen some
way
of
like
that.
foot behind. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So you didn't play any basketball or volleyball or anything else when you're coming up?
So I played football and basketball growing up. So starting my freshman year in high school, that's when I started playing basketball. But I played football ever since I was like 4 or 5 years old. That
Hmm.
was always the sport in my household. So
Yeah. Okay. And then how old were you when you started dunking?
oh, I was 17. It was my junior year of high school.
Hmm.
Maybe even it was actually 16 when I dunked for the first time.
Yeah.
16, 17. But yeah, I could barely touch the rim. But
Right.
I was able to dunk like an alley oop type of dunk. Somebody threw
Right.
it to me, like tossed it up.
Right.
But yeah, and I was my senior year since I had I was more bouncy. I could jump higher. I wanted to dunk in games so bad. Like that was
Really?
my goal. I got one, but
Yeah.
it was a good memory.
That's awesome. Yeah. I only had one that I remember. It was an intramural game at UCLA, and the floor down at Poly was, this is something I want to talk to you about. I would love to create an indoor kind of like some of those show meets that they've had. Like I've seen some of the times when where it's high jump only, and they've got a little corner of the stadium, mapped out, and I'm watching Barshim and some of those guys, and it looks like a pretty high level competition. Out here on the coast, we it's funny, even when we're doing indoor, they say, okay, we're doing indoor qualifying. Where are we competing? Outdoors. This is California. There's no need for indoor anything here, right? It's like it's usually sunny and dry. That's why everybody wants to live here, and that's why we train here. So it's like when I'm doing indoor qualifiers for Vanguard or for high school indoor nationals or whatever, these are outdoor marks. And the hard part for these kids is they go to a place that's actually indoors and they've never competed indoors. You're like, you qualified, but now you're going to be in a funky condition. You got to learn it's different indoors. I only had two meets that I competed at indoors, and I hated both of them because out here they were super tight and they had wood floors. You had to wear spikes and jump off wood. I hated it. I hated everything about it. But I know after doing that dunk that I threw down at Pauley, jumping out in basketball shoes on a really good floor, I would remember thinking, dude, if that would have been like that at the indoor things that I was trying to jump at, I could have jumped, because that feels nice. Some of those floors have some bounce to them.
Right.
So have you ever, what's that experience like? Because you mentioned you've had success at indoor as well. That's always, for me, I was always like, you always see that the outdoor marks tend to be better for most people. But
Hmm.
do you like jumping indoors? Do you think there's any advantage to jumping indoors?
So early on, I struggled. Indoors, I was able to, like I told you, I jumped 7'1" my freshman year. That was good for freshman. Sophomore year, I was only able to get 6'11". And at this point, I'm coming into my third year at Auburn. I'm like, okay, indoors is just not gonna work for me. Like I'm just not as good, as
Right.
comfortable indoors. And I was able to jump 7'1 3/4 my junior year. And that's still 7'1". It's only 3/4 of an inch better than what I did my freshman year.
Right.
Um, when my senior year, I was finally able to find my rhythm indoors. It really took me like 4 years to really like,
Yeah.
oh, I can jump indoors.
Yeah.
I was able to jump 7'2", 7'3", 7'2" again, consistently.
Yeah.
And but yeah, early on, I didn't like indoors very much. I just thought I felt better, more comfortable outdoors since I did 4 years high school outdoors,
Yeah.
you know. But
The
I
surface
got
is
used to it.
different too, right? It's not, is it all the same rubber or is it like, because that's hard for me to tell on the feeds when I'm watching, because everybody's got an indoor place back east. So it's hard to tell the difference.
Yes, the surfaces are different. So indoors, it's like it's like harder. The surfaces are harder, and it's more smooth. They call it like a Mondo. That's what they usually say. Oh, this is a
Yeah.
Mondo track. They're harder, smooth, and it's less easy to grip it with your spikes.
Right.
So having to wear short spikes on some of those tracks, I used to slip at times
Oh, yeah.
until I really learned how to control my curve and all of that. I really had to
Yeah.
focus. Um, Outdoors, the tracks are more rough, more rigid. You can grip them better, all those kind of things.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's one of the things I've been doing a few rants on and a few, just general information for jumpers as they're coming up is the contrast in styles between power and speed, right? And I've watched guys that are tremendously powerful leapers who they can basically just kind of get to the bar with enough speed, and then they're going to go up and they're going to probably hit vertical pretty much every time just because they're not going that fast. And so they can go up and then they tend to really be decent at the head throwback and popping their hips and everything. Because if they don't, they're not going to get into the pit at all.
Hmm.
Whereas somebody who's using a lot of speed, lots of times they blow right through into that position. And I'm like, no, 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 you got to try to hit vertical and wait, climb a little bit before you do that. And it's, maybe 2 or 3 tenths of a second, but it's still, important, right? So contrast in style and everything else. But yeah, the gripping on the speed of the curve. I was talking to Doug Nordquist a little back there. I mentioned him too. He's jumped 236. And he did that on a cadaver reconstructed left knee, by the way. He blew out his ACL banking in a game one time, right? At 6'5". And I guess I think it was within a year too. He had like for a high jumper, what would have been like Adrian Peterson coming back from the ACL tear and leading the league and rushing the next year, right? He had one of those like immediate turnarounds, like wasn't a 2-year readjustment because they didn't do anything with his ACL. They just actually gave him a cadaver ACL and roughed it up a little bit, got some blood flow, and put him back on the track. So it was like he did whatever he had to do for rehab, and then he jumped 8 3/4 on that leg, which is amazing. But he was telling me about meets where because he drops into a 45, looks like, as he's running his curve. He's an old man now. Like if you're out there listening, Doug's older than me, so but I still got videos of him, and he was always amazing to watch because I'm like, you don't really see that until you see it. You know what I mean? Like I had never seen anybody that used their speed to as that much of a weapon that ever. I was just used to running up and jumping. Like I learned how to use a curve kind of, but nothing like that. Nowhere near that kind of attack angle. But with that angle that you're talking about comes that, what if it's slick? What if it's this? What if they're, and these people that are in charge, yeah, you can only wear 1/4 inch spikes. I'm like, really? You want me to wear 1/4 inch spikes and run really, really fast and lean to my left? How's that going to work? Who are these?
Right.
You're like, just move the pits around every once in a while and you won't tear up the takeoff area, right? These people that run these meets, I tell you, Dontavious, we need to set it up. I'm telling you, I want to get. I would do such a great job with you guys. I'm trying to selflessly promote. So if there's anybody out there listening that's saying, "Hey, how do we make the high jump more presentable?" I mean, I love the idea of having you guys on pre and post game interviews, letting you talk for yourselves because you guys are great. You represent the sport well. You're good looking young men. You traveled around the world. You've got all this experience and you're, performing at this high level. You're a professional. And it's like, man, let's showcase these guys. I don't want to see every lap of the men's 10,000. No offense to you guys out there that are 10,000 meter runners, but I don't need to see 26 laps. I want to see all you guys jumping at your highest heights, under pressure, where, the drama of going to Oregon, what was I had one more point. I know we're getting late with you out there. Is there anything you want to talk about? I'm always asking all the questions.
I do want to talk about the two different jumping styles you talked about. So,
Yes.
I don't know if you know the name Romaine Beckford. He was a two-time NCAA champion this past year. It's he jumped 226 and 227
Mm-hmm.
that past year. And he is a power jumper. He
Mm-hmm.
comes from a shorter approach. It's probably about 8 steps.
Yeah.
And he just throws all that power and swing in a short period of time. And when he was jumping, because the year before he just went 226, his best was like 216, 217. And I
Wow.
was watching him and I was like, if you ever want to jump higher, you're gonna have to bring more speed and stop relying on all that power at takeoff.
Right.
And he would ask me for advice and things like that. Well, he did at the first competition, and I told him what I thought. But then the next year, it worked for him.
Right.
He's just that strong and that powerful.
Yeah.
He was able to develop his approach to where he could clear that bar off of that short approach with using his power. He's
Right.
about 6'5". He's a taller guy, and he was two-time NCAA champion.
Yeah.
So it works
You see that.
sometimes.
Yeah. 226, 27 is up there. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you got to go 230, 235 to even start making your appearance on the big stage internationally,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
there's NC2As and you guys, that's the one thing it's amazing to me is watching how they progress you guys through college. And then, like you said, you're kind of on your own now. What was your other comparison? You mentioned the power guys and then
So a speed guy that I think about is Wu. You know who I'm talking about? Wu Sang Yuk. I think that's his last name. He's a very fast Korean high jumper.
they
He
take
jumped in the
third in
Olympics.
the
He jumped
last
in
Olympics,
Worlds.
right? Took third?
Yes,
Like, yeah, third, I think.
yes.
Yeah.
And he is speedy. He's about probably 5'11", 6 feet tall, and he uses so much speed. And to be able to jump 236,
Mhm.
237 is crazy.
Right.
But that was my comparison of him using all that speed. Me personally, I try to do a combination of both. I used to be more of a slower jumper, and I
Mm-hmm.
started to develop my speed more and more. But now I consider myself a combination of
Yeah.
both of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because, I've gone through and looked at it and I'm like, it's a continuum. Let's just put it that way. You could have pure speed on one end and pure power on the other. And then somewhere in the middle, you're going to have combinations, right? And it's like that in real life. There's shades of gray to everything. So I'm like, I do the same thing with double and single arm people. I'm like, okay, this guy's a classic double arm gather, reach back, drive them both up. And then there's other people that this arm's already up, when they come through. I'm like, okay. But then there's gray area people all the time. I've seen Derek Druin, did the classic double arm gather and then clearly switches to a single in 2 steps.
Yeah,
I'm like, why is he bothering to gather? He's not using both arms, he's just using one. I mean, maybe he was converted at one time and it just stuck, but yeah, I see that happening all the time. What you're talking about, there's like it's pointless for me to tell someone, here's how you high jump, right? If I was cocky enough or grand as jumped high enough to be like, this is the Troy Haines system, and you must do this. It's like I've had kids jump with all of those different things we talked about, from double arms, single arms, both sides, power versus speed, whatever. There is not one way, to do it. There's many different ways. So, all right. Well, we're back here on Raise the Bar with Dontavious Hill and Troy Haines, former nobody from UCLA. We're talking to one of the great young jumpers here in the U.S., making all kinds of travel teams. I know who I was going to ask you if you had a chance to jump with. Have you jumped with what we were talking about before, though? We were just finishing up, and I was talking about what? Oh, we were talking about power versus speed. And I was saying
right.
how everything's on shades of gray. So yeah, I don't have a system. I'm a real watch and copy guy. So like we're talking about, I saw your layout and I was like, for a couple years, I was like, yeah, see, he turns his head and it's causing this reverse rotation. And I'm like, and I wasn't seeing the end result where I'm watching going, yeah, but he spins over the bar really good at the top, So I'm like, so I have to keep my eyes open and be teachable. I'm 60 years old here in a month. So it's like, okay, so here's a new trick for you. Instead of having only two different layout styles, where I've taught people if they're a double armor, you got to bring both hands down back to your hips, or one hand can reach for your heel and the other one come back here. I'm like, either head back, eyes open, head back, eyes closed, or you can look the way you're going, this way. So I'm like, I never said anything about turning this way, but and here again, here I'm being taught by someone who's had more success. Like, that works. It hasn't worked that way in your experience, but it works. You're watching it work. So instead of being resistant to it, open your eyes and figure out the physics, because that's where my grounding is. I'm a biomechanist. So it's like, okay, there's something to this and a reason why it works. So I've started getting to that place. Like, the other night, we called it a la Dontavious Hill. And I said, and Ruben was like, yeah, we're just going to go with it, and then he starts having more success because I'm not limiting him to my way of thinking. It's got to be this way. So, there is no Haines system. It's like, I like to consider it like, I love watching some of the single armors. Betsabe Paez. I don't know if you've ever seen her stuff. She's this little gal from Argentina. She has this beautiful single arm that she ends up reaching for her heel and gets in this perfect teardrop, bang. You're just like, oh my God. It's not only is it an work of art, but she's jumped, 5'11". She's only 5'6". So yeah. So it's so much fun to me to do the compare contrast, which style are you, which kid. I've got a girl right now who I've turned into a single armor because she did that her first day, but I swear she's a power jumper in disguise. So I'm like trying to figure out if there's a way for us to do the single. And I was going to ask you this question, like, when you watching the single armors, because you and I are just talking about how the double armors really pop their hips and throw their heads back and, all those moves to, to get into a nice position. For single armors, to me, it always seems like it either flows into one like there's no violent move, right? Because they ran off the ground, that arm's going away, and they just kind of go into it if they can. And sometimes the knee will just kind of drop a little, but there's no real what I would call a hip punch or a hip pop move. Um, so how would do you see it that way too, or what would you recommend? I'm trying to change this. I'm thinking maybe I can teach her how to pop her hip even as a single armor. I don't know.
So me personally, I never understood the single armors. I don't know how they still can jump high that way.
Right?
I've tried it. I feel like I have no momentum, no force.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel natural. But the same as you, I realize there's no one way to high jump. Like
Hmm.
I've had teammates and things like that, 7 footers, 16 guys, and they like, DT, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I used to try to teach them my way and it wouldn't help them.
Hmm.
So one thing that helped me help them was ask them, how do you feel? Like, how do you feel going through your curve? Do you feel like you're still maintaining your momentum or do you feel slow?
Hmm.
I'm trying to figure out what they feel in their approach and try to help them attack what's happening with them
Yeah.
instead of trying to convert them to what I do. And that really helped me help my teammates and just other high jumpers I've been around. Because I mean, I get messages from youth high jumpers who
Hmm.
just want to know how to get better.
Sure.
And the main things I tell them is to focus on the approach. That's the thing that's helped me the most over the years, making sure I've had a smooth, consistent approach, making sure I
Yeah.
stay tall, making sure I lean in my curve and try to drive
Mhm.
up as long as possible. Those are like my basic rules of high jump, and everything else will come as you come into your own approach and get stronger as you grow. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. Like I love what you're saying there too, because I'm trying, really trying, because especially with these younger kids, I'm like, okay, well, I not only do I know more than you, but I've seen a lot, and I'm like, but I don't want to just start picking styles for them and all that. So I let them jump at the bar a few times. It's hard for me because I think sometimes you can, within 5 jumps, I think you can create a bad habit. So I'm trying to already mold, but yet not constrict, and say, this is the way you got to do this. And it is pretty fascinating. Okay, switching tasks completely. A young man I wanted to know if you had met because I've talked with him. He's done a couple podcasts with me. Have you met Marcus? What's Marcus? It's Gelpy. I think it's Marcus Gelpy from out
yes,
here. He's
yes,
made
I
a couple
have.
of the travel teams that you were talking about, Pan American stuff, and because I think he's not from Costa Rica. He might be from Costa Rica.
Yes, he's from Costa Rica, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
No, Puerto Rico. Puerto
Puerto Rico.
Rico.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I met Marcus at the NACAC team in 2022. He was
Uh-huh.
competing um and he was competing for Puerto Rico and he was doing a different kind of approach. He was doing a C shape, I believe. So he
Uh-huh.
would run, the C shape. It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
a J.
absolutely.
And I think he jumped close to his PR that day, but he's gotten better since then. But yeah, he's a good guy. We stayed like how I told you, we had like the village on the beach, so
Uh-huh.
I saw him around and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a lot of fun. He was jumping up in Santa Rosa, which is where my dad lived up in Northern California at a community college. I think the first time I saw him, he's jumping 6'6" at the JC level. And then he jumped 6'10" and then he jumped 7'1". He's on the rise. I think now he's going to Kansas State. Is that right?
Yep,
Yeah,
K
yeah.
State.
So I gotta check back in with Marcus, see how he's doing, because that's a different cat. Now that you still got, I still think of the way football and basketball rule the roost. The money tends to flow downhill from the big programs. So if you're a big football school right now, I think your Big Ten or SEC, the Pac-12 is dead and dying and going away. And then, where else are you going to go? Maybe the ACC, there's a lot of jumpers on the East Coast who can jump indoors. I'm sure they're not all going to move west. So, but if you want to make any money. Now we're talking NIL stuff, right? You probably just missed your window there by just a few years. If we could have dropped you back just a little, get you some cash to compete in college, that would have just been a mind blower. I remember when they told us they were going to put our meets on TV. We had a Prime Ticket out here, which I forget. Prime Ticket is like the precursor to something else that's a little bigger now, but they still have some of the local meets, and they still cover them the same way, which is they ignore the field events, show every lap of the 10,000, all that kind of stuff still. But
A lot of youth they ask me, "Oh, how do I get recruited? How do I get this? How do I get that?" And I start out by simply telling them, "Oh, the best way to get recruited is to be good. That's
Right.
number one. You have to have top marks in the state and in the country.
Yep.
And for some, everybody can't be in the top, so you need other things to supplement that, whether it's your grades, your character, and maybe even community service at times. And
Right.
knowing people is important, but they always ask for advice and things like that. And one of the main things I tell them is to make sure your social media is cleaned up. You shouldn't have anything on there that what most people say you wouldn't want your grandmother to see or
Right.
something like that.
Hmm.
Um, also encourage them to make make an effort to reach out to coaches,
Yes.
in a professional manner, and understanding where they are. I try to tell them like you have to understand where you are as an athlete. Like you can't be a 6 foot high jumper at the time trying to reach out and go to the top SEC school.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to say you shouldn't shoot for those type of goals, but the things is depending on where you are, depending on what kind of attention a coach will give you.
Sure.
So they say, okay, what do I need to jump to go D1? I said, okay, there's one of my favorite quotes is, um, I'm going to read it to you. It won't take long,
Right.
but this is what I usually send kids who ask me that. It says Division 1 track and field misconception, advice for the youth. There are levels to Division 1. A lot of kids ask me how to make it in Division 1 and what kind of marks they need to get. I said, understand this. There are D1 high jumpers who jump 7.6, and there are also D1 high jumpers who jump 6.4. I said, this type of gap takes place in every event on the track as well. There are so many Division 1 schools that there are levels to Division 1 as a whole. And I just say requirements will depend on what conference you choose to compete in. Also, there's nothing wrong with Division 2, Division 3, JUCO, NAIA, or etc. I said some of the greatest athletes started in these divisions and became national record holders, Olympians, and all of the above.
Yep.
So I just try to let them know you want to go D1, but you got to hone in. What does it mean to you? It can't. It's a lot of D1 schools out there,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
it's a they're not all SEC. They're not all Big Ten. They're not all ACC. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So that's just some of the things I tell the youth.
Yeah, yeah, I like that too. I'm thinking I was talking about big picture with you, but you take it the other way, and then it is a real hodgepodge. Like I didn't know anything about NAIA until I got asked to coach at Vanguard here on the West Coast, and all of a sudden had athletes. I had one my high jumpers made it to Alabama Shores for the NC2As or the NAIAs 2 years ago, and that was fun. And it's pretty high level. There's a bunch of in the high jump there was three different guys. Shandon, I don't know, have you met Shandon Reitzel? Shannon's
Habit.
like 7'2", he's tall, skinny, does a lot of really great things. And there's like two or three guys that I did. For some reason, I went on a run of NAIA guys. All of a sudden, it's the funny thing about Instagram is like, say I find one kid who's a Polish kid, 15 years old, and he sends me his jumps. And I say, hey, this is so and so. He's from Poland. He's 15. He's done this. Within an hour, I'll get three other Polish kids that are like, hey, you posted him, post me. It happened that fast. Like I saw him and now you're posting me, so it's like it was the same thing at this NAIA. Like when I found Shandon, all of a sudden Michael Millslagel pops up on my thing. I was like, who's Michael Millslagel? Oh, he goes to this small college. It's NAIA. It's in the middle of the country. He's jumped 7'1". So I did his. And then I found another guy, Robert, who I forget his last name off the top of my head, but he was jumped 7'2" and a half and went to the trials back in 2016. So I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing that you jumped, 7'2". He had the B standard and he got to go. I'm just like so jealous because, like I said, back when I was jumping 7'2" and a half, didn't get us really anything. And it would have been nice to have gone even on the B standard. I think it's changed a lot because you guys have, there's the competition is still really good because I think training is good and you guys work so hard and you're dedicated and everything else. And then, there's a lot of guys that, who always recruits, which sports get recruited from when you're trying to be a high jump? Like if you ever become a high jump coach, where would you try to find your guys to come out and high jump?
Hmm. I never thought about that. I've I've never thought about that.
Yeah. I always try
Yeah.
to get basketball players and volleyball players because at least they already know how to jump, right? So they're like, some guys are real natural. A lot of guys, of course, what do you see? Like Jumpman Westmuir, he's doing dunking all the time. I get so many of these high school kids that were, like you and I figured out how to dunk. I was a junior just like you, and I couldn't palm a ball. So I kept throwing it off the back rim until the guy that was a senior a year in front of me said, just take it up with two hands like you do when you're high jumping. Just dribble, dribble, catch, and drive it up. And then all of a sudden I'm just tomahawking stuff because it was easy. Like I just couldn't palm it before. And I'm like, oh, that made it a lot easier. Cool. So, you've got those people to pull from, right? But it's like the level is one thing you're talking about, but there's so many schools. Like I didn't know that either. D3, D2, D1, NAIA. There's other ones too. It's not just NAIA. There's like
Right.
NAIA, AACP. There's all, I start losing track of the letters, but yeah, there's always going to be those people that for whatever reason didn't have exactly the streamlined things, the height, the this, the that. But then you've got the late developers, right? That come in jumping 6'4", like you said, and then a few years later, like you were talking about the power jumper guy that was jumping what two
Seven
fifteen, two
one.
16 or something, and all of a sudden he's jumping 7'5". So yeah, it brings up an interesting area that I call stretch too. Like I think you're 22 or three now. How old are you, Dontavious?
23, be 24 in a month.
24. So, you're a young man and you're still, I'm guessing, getting, like you said, you have new strength goals and all that. My blossoming happened. I was okay in high school and everything, but I remember after 2 years in the weight room at UCLA, I went from, 6'3", 180 and like a Tom Brady 5 flat 40 in football. I was slow, like sundial timer. I was really slow in the 40. And I got, after 2 years in the weight room, I was benching 300. I squatted 400. My verticals like 36 standing, over 40 off one leg. I could always
Wow.
jump. And when you added the power, I had more. So I was like, oh, this is great. But what I found, and you can attest to this, whether it's true or not, I would put in a year like that and we hadn't really learned about periodization yet. I had just started getting introduced to that. So I didn't even know what that was as a sophomore. By my senior year, they had guys writing programs for us, but they were kind of basic football programs. And I told the guy, I go, look, I'm not a football player. I said, I appreciate the thing that you wrote for me this summer, which was like 5 sets of 8 squats at 65% max. And, like three things on this thing. I look at it now, I'm like, it was so simplistic, but it was like squats, lunges, and hang cleans or something like that. And I'm like, okay, this is great, but I'm a high jumper. I need to do this. And his eyes kind of brightened a little bit, and he started changing the program because there's, as you and I know, there's a lot of things you can do. But that year, I lifted real hard and I did a lot of plyos. Because plyos in 1986 was like this new buzzword, and it was like any other kind of a supplement or a workout. As an American, what do we think? If a little bit is good, a lot's better, right? And I'm pretty sure my senior year, I just trained really, really hard and it paid off. But right at the end of the year, man, I was gassed. Like I needed some downtime and I was just pushing because everything was working, and I'm like, okay, well now more. And I started getting patellar tendonitis and it was all at the wrong time, but it was just, I overtrained. What I found out for me was that year following those kinds of things, it happened to me in that year that I jumped 7'2", because that was the first year I squatted 400. My senior year, I went for it because it was my senior year. The years after those years were hard. You were talking about how your freshman year was good and that sophomore year you didn't jump as well. You weren't as happy with that. And, I had the same thing happen. I went 2 as a sophomore, and then my junior, I jumped 7'1", the very first outdoor meet, and went steadily downhill from there. And I was like, what the
Yep.
hell is going
Same.
on? I didn't train the same way either though. When I look at it, like I didn't have that burning, I'm going to go kill it in the weight room, because my experience is I know the weights are important and I like lifting sometimes, but there are times when I'll walk in there, especially after a year as heavy as those 2 years, I'd walk in, I'd look around like, man, I just don't want to be in here. I didn't want to be in there that bad. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a lot of work, to do that stuff. So, it takes a level of dedication. But the other thing we were talking about stretch, and I appreciate your patience because my brain takes a while to unwind. But the stretch part is that I think as a young man of your caliber, working hard like you're doing, I'm sure you eat well, you're rested. This podcast, we attack all those things. I've had nutritionists on here, I've had sports psychologists, and trying to get better part. But when you're lifting, I go, you young guys, you don't realize you have this amazing capacity to stretch. And stretch to me is just like when your body's just fully capable, it's uninjured, and it can still just kind of expand into areas like you said, this guy went from 7'1" to 7'5". Like I remember a guy 2 years ago now, Tyler Arroyo. He was a 7'2" jumper, 220, maybe 218, maybe 220, but like 7'2" and a half. And then he goes down to Chula Vista, starts training with Jeremy, working out with the Korean guy that you're talking about. There's a couple of them down there. And he all of a sudden 5 3/4. He went up 3 inches that year and went to the trials. And then the year after the trials, he could barely jump 7 feet. It was just this weird, he had a 1 year, everything clicked, and he was struggling a little bit. And I go, I don't know, like maybe you should go back down to Chula Vista because he was living and training in Bakersfield. And I'm like, as wonderful as Bakersfield is, it's not Chula Vista, and you're not at the Olympic Training Center. So anyway, that I see that it's an amazing time, for you in your, application and everything else. The hard part is, did they still let you train there at Auburn, or are you kicked out and
So
on?
I actually moved, so I'm no longer in Auburn. I'm in the Georgia area, so I just
Mhm.
train on my own out here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's different because I remember the first time I rolled my ankle. It's like that happened to me in different times of training, and I would hop on one leg into the training room and shove my foot into an ice whirlpool, and they would give me some exercises, take me up, and I'd be back on the track in like 2 days. And that happened to me on my own, and it took like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to recover from. It's a
right.
different world, when you're on your own. Well, hey, Dontavious, this has been fabulous. I would literally keep talking to you for hours, but I see you yawning and you're checking your watch. But I really appreciate your time, and I would love to reserve the ability to get you on here again. If there's anything I can do to promote you, to make people more aware of you as you're going, down this path. I tell people this all the time on this podcast. I wanted to be you. I wanted to be that guy. I made it to the NCAAs once, and I've had people ask me, "Oh, wow, you jumped really high." I'm like, "Nah, I jumped okay. I didn't jump high. Like you guys, you're getting up there. You're 4 1/4. You're starting to get up. You're looking at 5. Like you said, you jumped at 7, 6 1/2, 7 7. I mean, you're jumping at 227. I'm like, oh man, I jumped at 225 maybe 5 or 6 times, in my life. So I'm like, I know what it takes to jump high. I jumped okay high, but I'm like, I watch people that do it better, and I'm envious, first of all, and also just, love watching it. And I want to see you, make it to the trials and make it onto the team, and, all that stuff. I just wish the most for you that is possible, and the, best luck in your training. And I just wanted to go so bad. I wanted to go to the Olympic. My roommate and I used to sit up my freshman year at night and talk about, going to the Olympics, going to the Olympic trials, doing this and that, being on the cover of Wheaties boxes with, like Bruce Jenner or something like that. So, but yeah, I see tons of potential in you, man. I'm just hoping the best for you, that you're going to jump out of the building and get to go. So I'll be watching those results. You said you're jumping in February at the
Yes,
USA.
sir. First competition February 10th, and my second competition will be February 16th at USA Indoors.
USA indoors. Where is that going to be held?
Albuquerque, New Mexico,
Okay.
that new facility they have.
Nice, nice. And you've had experience indoors, which is helpful. I need to maybe I just need to get myself a ticket. That's almost my birthday. I'm born on the 21st of February. Maybe I could
Okay.
make a birthday ticket to myself and come down and watch you in action.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate your time again, Dontavious. You're an awesome guest. Keep posting. I love all those posts, and the more the better. I've just recently found the beauty of the Reels thing. I used to just do like 10 videos on a post. I like the way you can cut it up in Reel and add music, all that. I think it's awesome. You can get a lot of information in a short time. You know, they give you about a minute and a half, I think you can use, right? So I
Right.
cut out all the fluff when somebody's standing there going like this, like for 10 seconds before they go. I cut all that. I get them when they're jumping. Sometimes I'll even cut the first part of the approach, just like, okay, show me the curve. All right, let me see you jump. And then I'll fit like 20 jumps in there. So, you know, but anyway, well, hey, best of luck, man. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on, Troy.
Hey, thank you. It's awesome. Once again, everybody, say goodbye to Dontavious Hill. Thanks for coming, and we'll be in touch, dude. I'll let you know when this comes out, and it's going to be on YouTube as soon as I can process it. So that's how Barbara takes the feed from me, and then puts it on the Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those other ones. So you should be able to listen to it back in a short time, and then hopefully both can promote it a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
All right, sir. It was nice meeting you. Looking forward to seeing you in action.
You as well.
All right, bud. And that's going to wrap it up here on Raise the Bar. We had with us the young jumper, formerly from Auburn University, Dontavious Hill. He has a personal best of 7'4.25", which is 2 meters 24. He's looking to be an Olympian. He's looking to make it to the U.S. trials. He's looking to make more travel teams that he's already made. He is on his own. He's out of Auburn and moved to Georgia and training on his own, looking to become a young professional, hopefully supported by some of the higher ups with money, people like Nike and New Balance and those kinds of different places that can advertise and support these young athletes that are tremendous, not only athletes, but people involved in their communities. So God bless him as he's stepping up to these higher levels and, kind of outside the umbrella of the university, which we've talked about here before, which is kind of a new world. You got to learn the ins and outs of it. And there are no real easy roadmaps because we have such a huge country. So if there is one way to do it, there's probably more than one way. But until next time, Troy Haines signing off on Raise the Bar, another episode.